Hey everyone, we're really excited to do another developer interview here during Infinite Summer. We got Bobby with Mischief Dev. We're going to be talking about Mirror Forge. This is a really cool horror game that we're super excited about, and we featured a couple months back in Indie Game Roundup. And we got Bobby here, who is the lead developer on Mirror Forge. Bobby, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey there, Jesse. Firstly, thank you for having me here. It's so great being here, and thank you for the invite. Yes, I can say, yeah, I'm the lead developer of MirrorForge, but basically, I'm the only developer of MirrorForge. So I'm the guy working in the studio, like doing the modeling, the programming, taking the garbage out, making dinner and stuff. So yeah. Hello everyone. I'm Bobby. I'm a sole indie developer, a full-time indie developer since last year. I started out like I was working as a digital marketer in a company, and for 8 years I was a 3D freelance artist. So I worked for clients and stuff. In that way, I learned a little bit about art, a bit about marketing and sales and so on. And these were the skills that helped me like for MirrorForge and for my previous game, which I worked like with another colleague that was Alan Sharp. So then we separated and I went full on solo dev. And at the moment I'm focusing currently on MirrorForge. About myself, I can say that I'm a enthusiastic person. I love to work a lot, especially if it's a job that I love. My main goal is being an entrepreneur, so I always do everything with the entrepreneurial spirit. And when I chose game development, I knew it would be like a hard way to succeed. But thankfully, my first game made enough for me just to quit my job, go full-time game developer. And at the moment, I'm working like solo on MirrorForge. It's quite an experience, honestly. So yeah, there's a lot of work. There's a lot of sacrifice. You need to carefully manage your time, but thankfully everything turns out great.
Awesome. And thanks for sharing a little bit about yourself, Bobby. I just found out when we were talking in prep for this that the demo's out. So I'm really excited about that. That news dropped and I missed it. And it's really cool. So after this, I'm gonna have to download it right away and try to play it tonight and try to sleep afterwards because this game looks terrifying. So I'm really, really excited to try it out. It's really cool that we get to do this right when the demo's coming out. And then hopefully we can get some more content for Infinite Summer out of it. What do we say we dive into the questions? All right. So, first question was, and I think this one was maybe a little obvious because people can see the background and they'll see the gameplay playing in the background when we upload this. But what type of game is Mirror Forge, and what inspired you to build this type of game? With the secondary part of the question is, do you have a game that you really enjoyed that maybe inspired you to make a horror game? So tell us a little bit about what type of game is it, and what inspired you to make it.
Well, Mirror Forge is a psychological survival horror in a way. Not so much survival. The survival part is mainly you can die, you can be chased by enemies. But what people will find surprising is that also Mirror Forge is a sci-fi game, so it's not just horror. I was inspired by games similar to Silent Hill. I was also inspired by Stranger Things. I think I've mentioned this like on my socials. However, people do not know that I also got a lot of inspiration from other titles like Amnesia, Lovecraftian literature, and so on. So all of these like contribute to Mirror Forge. I can't say too much about the full story. I can speak a bit about the demo since streamers already played it. Like it's official, it's online. The demo is basically you're a regular everyman who had some issues in his past. He did some bad things. I'm trying not to spoil anything. So he did some bad things here and there, and he ruined his life. He utterly ruined his life. The game is set like in 2023, so that's 1 year from now. And if you play the demo, you will notice there are mentions of the pandemic, there are mentions of some things which people can relate to. So yeah, that's the demo, but I will mention it here that the story that's in the demo is like a backstory, backlore. It's not the main story. The main story is much more vague and different than the demos, but I can't reveal too much. Probably you've seen some of the pictures I've posted on social media. There are some ancient gods from Mesopotamia, like it's the Anunnaki. Those are like the gods from the Sumerian civilization. Yeah, that's like the largest inspiration for this game. It's basically the Mesopotamian myths. When I started working on the game, the first thing I did was to search like historical facts and archaeology and so on, and I was looking for entities like which are so old that they are like quite vague even in history books. So I found like the Mesopotamian myths, and I decided to create a game about it.
That's actually really cool. I didn't know about that aspect of the game in some of our previous chats and like when we were featuring it in Indie Game Roundup. I didn't know that's actually really cool backstory to its development. We get a lot of entertainment media that focuses on like Greek mythos and ancient Egyptian mythos, and we really don't see a lot of sometimes like some of the more Eastern ones, but like you mentioned like Sumerian and Mesopotamia. I think a lot of gamers would be impressed to like learn more about that because that's just not a portion of mythological history that a lot of people know about. I don't even feel super knowledgeable about that, and so that's really cool that we're going to get to see some of those types of new mythos and characters and backstory. That's really exciting. Thank you for sharing that. I know that's really cool. Um, what about so next question was just kind of a simple one. It was just how long has the game been in development? How long have you been planning, or from like early concept up till now, how long has Mirror Forge been in development?
Mirrorforge started like 8 months ago, but keep in mind that I also have 8 years of experience in game development, so it's not like I'm just starting out. So I have a plan. I did like some strategies. As a marketeer, I did some research. And here's the thing that most people won't know, but Mirrorforge started under a project name called The Endless Dreamer. And firstly, Mirror Forge was a Lovecraftian game, so I wanted to put Azathoth, like the god from Lovecraft, and just things like that. And then, as a marketer, I did some research. I posted several surveys on my social channels, asked some gamers and streamers what would they like to see in a horror game, and it turns out that they weren't so keen on Lovecraft style. They wanted more like ghosts and demons and the regular religious stuff, I might say. But honestly, when I found the answers, like the results from the surveys, I thought like maybe this is too cliche. Every movie nowadays, like every horror movie has ghosts and demons. I wanted to do something different. So as you can see, like even in the demo, it's basically, I can describe it in a simple sentence: ancient religions meet science. So yeah, that's Mirror Forge. Like you have alternate realities, you have parallel worlds and dimensions, so on. So it will be something related to that. So like I mentioned, it started like 8 months ago. There are a few more months to go until the September release, hopefully. I'm fully dedicated on the game, like 100%. So I hope it will be released like on September the 30th.
No, I definitely like your decision to go a little bit different by exploring other mythos than like because like the whole like the demons and the ghosts and some of the more traditional horror are very, if it's very Western or very like almost like Christendom mythos, it's in a lot of ways. So I mean we get a lot of that in the horror world. I mean you could just go through Steam and find a million horror games that have that type of mythos. So getting a game with a different mythos entirely is, and other types of like supernatural characters and everything like that is very fascinating. Like I said earlier, I'm very excited to see a game that targets certain mythos that we just don't ever really see in any type of entertainment, let alone games. So I think that's going to be a really cool, unique differentiating factor, which was actually one of my questions that you've kind of already answered. I was going to ask about like what makes Mirror Forge different and what is your differentiating factor? Like how are you trying to stand out amongst all the other horror games? And I think that's a really big one. So that's really cool. I had so my next question was what is your greatest challenge being an indie developer? Ever since you started working on this game by yourself and being a solo dev, what is your greatest challenge and how do you overcome that challenge? And therefore, you would be your like advice for other solo devs out there? Because we know a lot of solo devs and it's hard and it's a lot of work and it's like what is your greatest challenge and how do you overcome that? What would you recommend to other solo devs who might be seeing that same challenge that you do?
Yeah, so now we enter the entrepreneurial field. Like I mentioned previously, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I always wanted to have like my own study and do what I love. So yeah, as a solo developer, it's quite hard. I might say I can't say hard because it would it will sound like I'm complaining. I don't complain about it because simply I love this job, but it takes me, for example, around 16 to 18 hours sometimes per day to work on it. But it's creative stuff. It's something I love, so it's not a big problem. There are a lot of things on the internet you can research, you can find tutorials and so on. Ask people in Discord groups and so on, and they help me a lot. But one thing I could say to people who start indie game development at the moment is to not be afraid of the mistakes. You will make like a lot of mistakes, but the most important thing is to learn from these mistakes. I know it sounds cliche, but usually these mistakes will help you like to improve further on down the road. And also, if you're focused on becoming a full-time indie game developer, that means quitting your job, earning from your games. I would say the skill that helped me the most with both my games is marketing and sales. You need to learn how to market and how to sell. How to sell, sorry. And I read a lot of entrepreneurial books, like, I don't know, Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The Power of the Subconscious Mind. And these books helped me a lot with my mindset and how to see things. So I always think to myself, I don't want to go back to that boring desk job. I'm doing the job I love. So yeah, that would be it probably.
So I have a follow-up question. Sorry, I had a brief internet bump there, so I'm just checking the internet real quick there, just making sure we don't get that. There we go. So I had a follow-up question on that. So you said you went full-time and you're not working another job, and like I said, in my experience doing what I do with the Game Infinite platform and Indie Game Roundup, and I speak to devs all the time, and I know a lot of solo devs, and a lot of them, they do it in their free time, they do it at part-time. They're doing it, they're trying to find the free hours to work on, and it's very difficult to manage. And I know a lot of solo devs just in my career doing this in the just last 10 years, that the idea of going full time on this is scary and impossible feeling. Like even myself, I don't even do Game Infinite full time. I do this as a side thing that I do in my free time and everything. So I kind of a follow up is like, what did it take to go full time to be an indie dev full time? How did you pull that off? How did you accomplish transitioning this into a full-time gig that, you said you've been working on it for 8 months. It doesn't sound like a long period of time, but that's a long period of time to just work for yourself pre-release. So like, how did you do that? How can we inspire some of the other solo devs and those of us all working on our projects and our free times to do this? How did you pull that off?
Well, like I mentioned previously, I worked like a 3D freelancer in my spare time, like I can say like for 8 years. And then I also worked in a company as a digital marketer for 2 years probably. I try to save as much money as possible. So I did like saving from the freelancing stuff, from my job, putting like some money aside, just piling them up just to have enough to cover me like for the next several years. And then the first game, when it came out, it provided, I might say, quite good income, like 5-figure sales. And I decided the most important thing with money basically is to have money management. I mean, it's quite hard to get money. It's very easy to spend them. So instead of going the route like, I have a lot of money, I'm gonna buy this, I'm gonna buy that, I'm gonna buy, I don't know, some not so important stuff, I decided to keep the money and focus like on my dream. And I was, like I mentioned, I was wanted to be a full-time game developer and entrepreneur. So that's how I did it. And I also, like, part of the money I invested in stocks, for example, in companies, just to have like yearly, how do you say that, like dividend? That's how you say it. How you say it? Like
Mm-hmm.
every year you get like some cash back from where you've invested. So that was like a plan B, a backup plan for me to have some finances until the other game succeeds. And like I mentioned, always you're gonna have to find some sources, like maybe do Kickstarter, maybe do Indiegogo, maybe you can have Patreon and or buy me a coffee and so on. And that's how basically I managed to go full-time indie. It was a hard decision because when I talk with other game developers, I don't know if you follow my channels on Twitter and Instagram, but besides Mirrorforge, I also do like game development and digital marketing videos, and I try to provide as much value content and educational content to beginner indie game developers. I always say it's gonna be hard if there's no one paying paying you monthly salary or something. It's everything on your shoulders. And since I've started being a full-time game developer, there are days like when I'm working from 16 to 18 hours. And there will be a lot of sacrifices. For example, there was a period where all my friends asked me like, hey, can we see each other? Can we go on a coffee? And I haven't got out of my house like for 6-7 months. But I was always saying like, if you're my friends, you're gonna understand what I'm doing, you're gonna understand how much I love this. And I just went with it like 100%.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing all that. It's definitely great advice. You could probably, when Mirrorforge is done, you could probably just like teach do a class, like a teach, that could be your new job afterwards, just like teaching other gaming creators how to go full time. Because I know that's actually one of the biggest things that I talk about a lot of times with a lot of these devs, is just like how to do it, like how to fit it into a full-time job, how to fit it into spare time. Because that's the route I went, where like I put at least maybe like 15 to 20 hours of Game Infinite into my week. And then like how to fit that into a regular 40-hour job. And I have a wife and kid, and like how to do all of that. Time management and money management is key.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely thanks for sharing. I know that's probably great inspiration to a lot of our other solo devs that are like doing this work at 1 a.m. when they have to get to work in the morning, that it is possible, that it can be done to eventually leave the 9 to 5 and move on to full-time stuff. That's one of my dreams, is to move on to full-time working for myself. So it's one of the things that I'm working on, and it's definitely really inspiring to see other small creators, other developers, other people doing it, because that proves that it can be done, to myself and to the other people that I've talked to. So thank you for sharing that. We talked about the greatest challenge, like money, time, all of that. What would you say is, on the flip side, what is the best part of being an indie developer? What really drives you, that makes this all worth it? What makes those 18-hour days worth it to you? What is the best part of being an indie developer?
Well, probably I might say I'm a huge lover also of stories and books and so on, and getting to create like an entire world, feel like you're creating everything from the ground up, building the characters. For example, I'm not looking at Mirrorforge like a game. I'm looking at it like a story. And when I started like developing it, I was like, I'm building this world, building these characters, the character arcs, the decisions, why these characters behave like this, behave like that, what happened there. So basically being creative, doing what you love, like the creative output I provide and so on, that's what like leads me to succeed and to develop like new projects. There was even a small indie developer who mentioned to me like, so if your game succeeds a lot and makes millions, would you like retire? And I said, regardless of any money, regardless of whatever happens, even if I'm 70 years old, I'm gonna keep on making games, because simply because I love it. It's not about the money. It's because I love that, you know, it fills me up. So it's like my that term escapism, I think it was, like when I'm designing the world of Mirrorforge or any other game, basically it's like I'm escaping from the real world into this imaginary perfect world that I have in my head, and I want like to build it. So yeah, that's basically the reason why I keep on grinding like for 16 to 18 hours.
I love the answer to that question, because it's essentially, the best part of being an indie developer is, I love video games. And I love that answer because it's just so pure and honest. And that is ultimately very similar to how I feel, is like, why do I do all of this? Is because I love it. I love the whole gaming community, getting to meet developers, all the other types of content creators we work with, the streamers and the cosplayers and the artists and everything. I love all of it. And I love games. Writing these like articles and reviews and stuff, it's very exciting stuff. So I can really resonate with that. So thank you for sharing. So I was going to ask, you've talked a little bit about some of like the big picture lore of the game. What could you tell us about what went into making some of these characters. So like in one of our earlier conversations that where we've talked, I pointed out how just the quality that one of the characters is that the Quinn twin, as I called it. How did you go about making such high quality visuals in such a short period of time? Like that particular character, she's not the protagonist. The protagonist is a first person perspective, I believe. But that was just in general, some of these visuals are very impressive. They don't look like a indie horror game that's been built in 8 months. Like how did you go about designing that particular character? What could you tell us about some of the characters? I know you don't want to spoil too much of the story and the lore. We've got a little bit high level, but could you tell us a little bit maybe like went into going creating some of those and how did you do it?
Yeah, sure. Well, I can talk a little bit about that little girl that you see in the demo, because if I talk too much, I might spoil something. She's very important, like for the main story. Uh, so far, like I mentioned, there are over 400 streamers who already played the demo, and I visited most of their streams. Honestly, I even had a chat with them, like had fun, because besides being a developer, I'm also a gamer, and I love like watching other people, and mostly I love like listening to their ideas, who she is. And to frankly tell you, they were 100% wrong. No one got who was Little. I think someone mentioned like she's like the dead daughter of the main character. Others said like she's a demon, and I said nope, you're wrong, guys. And you will see in the full game who she is. So you will be shocked like to find out who she is basically. But
I really want to
how it
find out.
started. So when I started like Mirror Forge, the first thing I did was I wanted to create like a person, the main character, basically someone who is an everyman, like in Silent Hill 2, like James Sunderland. So I want to create like an everyman, a person that people can relate to. So like someone who has regular issues, and if you play the demo, you will realize that he had some things in his life that can happen basically to everyone, like in your past. And I wanted to have a guy who's not a superhero, who's not like some soldier or anything, just a regular guy. But on the other side, I love books and films like Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, and so on. And I love like an epic story. But I decided just to go with the epic story for the full game and provide some backlore in the demo. Sorry. So every single enemy, every single monster in the game is symbolically designed to represent something like from the inner turmoil of the character. Like you see like there's a meat thing in the demo. It's like a huge mass of meat. If you look closer, it has like 3 heads popping out of it. They're like struggling to pop out from inside, but can never get out due to the skin of the creature. And that represents like Thomas's anger. For what he did, he tries to get it out, but he will never be able to basically. So that's just one of the monsters. So far there are around 20 monsters in the full game, and every single monster represents something. Regarding the characters, it's mostly basically like when I'm building these characters, I focus on them, and when I'm building the environment, I use some of my own models, and then I use some assets from the marketplace. So the levels, the less important stuff, I try to manage my time and build them like with assets I can find on the internet. Like maybe I bought several packages, but for the main characters, for the enemies, for everything that is related to the main story, I try to build it myself. For example, sculpt it in ZBrush, I don't know, build it in 3ds Max, Substance Painter for texturing and so on. So when I'm doing this character, the first thing I do is I take a paper and a pen, and I start writing out like the character arc. Like I don't know if you know, guys, but I also had written a book like a year ago, sorry, and I published it on Amazon. It's a Lord of the Rings based book, so I love literature basically. And when I'm approaching my characters, I basically do like character arc, like what is he believing in, what are the obstacles, the mental obstacles, the physical obstacles. I'm writing everything down for this character, so I will know like in the story, in the cinematics, how he should behave, how he should look, what is going on with this character, because I want people to relate like to those characters that I have in the game. So basically, yeah, that's how I approach the game design.
No, that's definitely awesome. It gives a little bit of context to like some of the characters and a little bit more of the lore. I know we don't want to spoil too much here and
Yeah.
get too nitty gritty, but ahead of release. But it's still nice to just hear like some of these what goes into making some of these characters and like some of like I said, these characters look really really good. And I think I told we in a previous conversation when we were prepping for one of the indie game roundups, I mentioned that the character I felt like that particular character, the first one I had really seen, was the one that instantly, like when I'm going through looking for all these, I'm looking for games, trying to find games for indie game roundup. And I came across that image. I was like, holy fuck, this looks really good. This look like a AAA character. And I thought it was very impressive. And that's where I think we even, yeah, I know we even used it as the background. So every month we pick one of the games to be the cover art, our version of the Game Informer cover for indie game roundup. So we use that character for that. So it was always very impressive. So I wanted to kind of hear a little bit about what went into character design. So that's really cool. Let's talk about release. So that was my final question, was let's talk about a little bit about release. So according to Steam, we got the demo out, which is cool. That's live, so you can play that right now. We'll put a link down in the description in the video so people can hop to it. I definitely recommend checking it out. I'm gonna be playing it tonight. And then, so we have it slated for September 2022. Is that still, do you think that's still going to be, is that still the plan that we're trying to get final release out by 22? How's that looking for you?
It's September 30th. So yeah, I think I will manage to get to that date and release the game. Thankfully now, like I mentioned, I already have a publisher. The news were announced like yesterday. DreadXP is the publisher of Mirrorforge. They've helped me a lot. They provided me with a team like which will do the polish and stuff and so on. So hopefully, yeah, it will be released on September 30th, primarily for PC, for Mac, and for Linux. And further on, we'll see, maybe it will be released for consoles, but not really sure. I can't discuss too much about that at the moment. But we'll see how it goes. I'm focused, like I mentioned, I'm working every day, even weekends. So I mean, no wonder why every single relative nowadays calls me workaholic. But but yeah, I will manage to release the game.
So that is cool to hear. That was actually the second part of my question. I was going to ask about like what came afterwards, was like console aspirations, mobile ports, anything like you said. You can't really talk about it just yet, but that is something that you would like to see in the future, like maybe some type of console version.
Yeah, definitely. I would love to get Mirrorforge to consoles. Regarding mobile version, I don't think it's possible because the textures and the graphics are too like they, they can't be optimized that much to be suitable for mobile. So it will most definitely be on PC, like for a primary platform, and then like hopefully it will be on consoles too, maybe PlayStation or Xbox. Not really sure.
That's awesome to hear. I know nothing confirmed yet, but that's definitely cool to hear that there's those aspirations in the future afterwards. Well, I'm really excited for Mirror Forge. I want to wish you best of luck with that. I really hope that this is one of those that gets really popular. We'll definitely do our part, try to help spread the word. With Infinite, that's what Infinite Summer is all about. So Infinite Summer is our summer gaming news event. We're doing more of these developer interviews. We're doing all types of trailers and articles and recaps and all this stuff. And we're really excited about it. I guess I just had one final question that I didn't have in my notes. Is where can people get that shirt? I want that shirt. That shirt's awesome. How can people get a Mirror Forge shirt? Because that is really cool. I was looking at that. I was like, man, that's pretty sick looking. It's just like you have a cool art design, cool logo for the game. It's just sick. Where can people get it? Do you have a store?
No, basically, the story behind this shirt is I always wanted to have a shirt of my product. Even when I worked like on earlier games, I had this idea but never got around to it. So there was this day, like I said, to hell, I'm gonna go and buy and make a shirt. So I made the shirt like for myself. It's not like something that you can buy, but I think there will be some. I don't know what can I talk about basically, but there will be some things like in the future and some merchandise probably, which will probably through DreadXP where you will be able to buy some things regarding Mirrorforge. But again, it's still too early to talk about it. I mean, the hardest part when you're talking in interviews is like I'm constantly trying to remind myself what I can speak about and what I cannot speak about. So that's the hardest part, you know?
Yeah, no, I totally understand. Especially when you have a partnership now with a publisher, and
Yeah.
you also have a story you're trying to protect. You don't want to spoil things. There's a lot. I understand all of that. We're gonna have to change that because we'll talk more about this maybe off interview, because maybe the three of us, you, Game Infinite, and the publisher, we can partner up because we actually have a store. And we do partner up with small creators to get their content. We have something called the Creator Collection. So, small shameless plug for us. We partner up with, we have about, let's say maybe about a dozen and a half creators that we've partnered with to get their stuff on our store. And as things like Indie Game Roundup and Infinite Summer and some of our indie dev sections, I would love to get more like indie game content on there. So maybe that'll be how I get one of the shirts, is I'll have to get it on our store, but we'll talk more details off the interview. But that's something that we could think about maybe down the road, because I'd love to get one of those shirts on our store. That'd be pretty sick. So awesome. That was my last question. Thank you again for joining us. And this is going to be really cool game. I'm really excited to check it out. And so for those of you watching, if you want to play the game, you can play the demo right now. Like I said, I'm gonna put the Steam link down in the description below, and stay tuned for more Infinite Summer content.
Something don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up, it's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out, maybe it's the chemistry. It's